So maybe there's a drash that Rava is to be on all fours, right? So Ravats or Rovates might mean just a simple posture of being on all fours, like close to the ground, right? I didn't try to make a joke on that one, so I'm not sure what was funny, but it can have a different emotional register, right? So Ravats, we have it in the beginning of Gracious. Does anyone remember where Rovates comes from?
Kain.
Kain, what is it? What does it say? Rovates,
sin.
right. That sin crouches at the door. We also have Rovates in the end of the Gracious, where the bracha of Yaakov says in one of the Shvatim, I forget offhand, it says that it'll be like a lion crouching, right? So it's a crouching lion, crouching, wasn't there a novel, Crouching Tiger or something? So what happens when a lion or a tiger is crouching? What is it ready to do? Right, it's ready to pounce. So maybe there's an internal drush at the first time the Torah uses the word. It's a metaphor, sin crouching at the door, because what's the sin ready to do? It's ready to pounce on you, right? So it's resonant here. It could be simply here, rovate, simply a power of word, just the posture of it being crushed under its load. Or I can hear this resonance. Since we're talking about your enemy, maybe there's something else that's crouching to take hold of us, right, on a drash level, right? So maybe that's part of what's going on. I'll leave that for the time being. Okay, Achad Masa'o, under its burden. I don't have more to say about that. Now, Heshi's issue, V'chadalta. This is a strange word. It doesn't appear many times in the Torah, right? So it's an unusual word. And whenever there's an unusual word in the Torah, our ears perk up, right? We kind of like, okay, we pay attention a little more. V'chadalta. Okay, so what does v'chadalta mean, right? So chadalta, pardon?
You stop.
To stop, right? So it means to cease or desist or refrain from, right? And so we have that a couple of times already in Gracious, right? You get gold stars if you remember 2 times. Excellent. So one of them is Sarah, because it's Marty, we're not going to give out an extra prize for that. But yes, right. So Sarah stopped being able to give birth. But that implies that on the one hand, she had the capacity and then it was stopping. So it already implies there's a process going on that was stopped. What's another Adal at the beginning? Marty again from last week. He talked about the tower, right? There'll be nothing that they can do. Right there, if the people of the Tower of Babel were doing so much, then and we let them do the tower, then there's nothing. They won't be able to be stopped. So once again, this idea of chadal means that there's a process going on and then it stops. So we have to understand the chadal in the same way, right? The chadalta me Azov lo, that you have to stop from helping him. But that implies that you were trying to help, you were going to help them. You had an impulse, perhaps, to help. Then me'azov lo, right? And then, so what are you stopping? Are you stopping this impulse to help? You're forbearing, right? You're stopping from helping him. Or are you stopping from some other impulse of maybe not help? Chadalta me'azov, right? So it's a very complicated language, but it's also a very complicated psychology because the Torah's words are trying to express a human reality, but what exactly is that reality? Yeah.
Seems to me by the Chagall, if you hate him, you're not going to want to help him. If he hates you, you may want to help him because you want him to like you.
Okay.
Human nature.
So there's a human nature involved, right? Depending on where the hatred flows, either from you or towards you, there may be different calculations that you make. Yes, yes.
So Jewish people often say these rules apply to helping or hurting your fellow Jew, and they don't apply to Goyim in general. Would this rule apply to helping Goyim?
We would look at the Gemara in Bava Metzia 32, and there's a big discussion of whether it applies to non-Jews or not. And often I just follow the general principle from my Rabbi, who said even if there's technical ways of that it may not technically apply, but there's other broader principles that might apply, like shalom and kavod abrios and things like that, which are an overriding general principle. So even if you hold that it may not technically apply, it can apply in a broader sense. In my base measures, that's how we have learned and we have taught. Okay, it's a good question. Okay, let's go on. So now we go to the word Azov. Azov, if you look at it, and you have some basic Hebrew knowledge, Azov means what? To leave. Right? So does it mean that you're trying to, should you leave him? Should you Azov? And then it says Azov ta Azov imo. So it doesn't look like it means leave. Right? So it's very complicated here, right?
Don't leave without him.
Don't leave without him. All right, so this share is being sponsored by American Express. There are more opportunities later on. Speak to me after share. Yeah.
A commentary that I believe was saying, Azov, leave your own feelings aside.
We're not asking you for interpretations right now. Okay, we're just raising problems. Okay, because I want to have a share to present. Okay, no, sorry. It's a well point. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. We're talking about, okay, so, all right. So then the other question is, we've covered Azov and Azov, right? That repetition of that word. And then we have imo, with him. What is with him? What are you talking about? Don't Azov ta Azov. You know, if it means help him, help him. Why is it with him? Help him. I don't want an answer. I don't want an answer, Esther. I'm just asking a rhetorical question, right? Because we'll get there. I please God, we'll get there. We'll get there. All right, you have the answer, but I just want to emphasize important is to read every word of the Torah, right? Because it's a question. When you're reading it, it's jarring, right? So this is the way we have to read Pasuk in Torah. We have to understand each word and how each word fits in with the other words. And if something doesn't seem right, then we have to ask a question. All right, so that's all. This is what we did just to set up all of the different problems. But I think now, after asking questions on almost every word here, we get a sense that this is a complicated pasuk. But in order to know what the halacha is, we have to know what the words mean, right? So, all right, so that's why it's important really to delve in on a deep level as to what these the psukim mean in a literal sense. And then see what the halacha does with it. Okay, everyone with me? All right, yes, one more comment.
I came across once a donkey that used to bite people and kick them.
A donkey that bit and kicked people.
So if you see this same rascal, the same donkey, do you have the same obligation?
I believe so. It doesn't say that you have it doesn't say that you have a nice donkey. It says a donkey, right? Any kind of a donkey, probably. All right. All right. So let's go right with the classic commentator Rashi. We'll do it in English. All right. So here, he means possibly or perhaps or if, but he says here, Dilma, which is one of the four meanings, right, which we saw earlier. And the sense of the verse is as follows. Can you possibly see his donkey crouching beneath his burden and forbear to help him? So Rashi is saying that we should read this pasuk as a rhetorical question, right? Which is a very fascinating. Normally, the Torah is very direct and explicit, meaning it just tells us in a declarative way, what to do or think or say. But here, it's done in an unusual way. And when it's done in an unusual way, again, we are supposed to then delve in, because it's not expressed in a typical way or one that's expected, right? So what's Rashi on the Torah, based on Rashi, what is the Torah teaching us? The Torah is teaching us that the Torah and Hashem cannot countenance. The Torah it's like pasnished. I'm talking to the Jewish people. And how can you possibly see a donkey, enemy or not, and not help? Right? So it's coming with a presumption, the Havamina, the initial framework is one of Jews help people. We're talking to the Amha Padosh. And so Hashem is saying, oh, but what's the human reality? So the human reality is that, yes, we do have the sense of maybe we don't want to help. So the Torah is teaching us, if we ever feel that way, we have to snap into attention, right? It's human to feel that way. And Hashem obviously knows that. But he's telling us in a subtle way that we should be conscious of it and be vigilant. That when we might have those feelings that come out, that we should address it right away. So this is a fascinating approach for Rashi to bring. Okay, so now, yeah. And tell me who you are again.
Michael Terry.
No. Esther Posner, yeah.
To refer only to when you see. What if you hear an animal?
The question is hearing. Yeah, I think seeing can be sensing, right? That's how I would translate it. Yeah. Okay.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
when you're making the decision whether to help them or not, doesn't a lot of it depend on whether you can help?
Yeah, we're not going to get into the halachas of that at this point. Maybe at the end we'll have something, but yeah, I mean,
If you're not comfortable fixing a flat tire,
there's something that you're right. There's something that you can't load a donkey. It's hundreds of pounds. But what is there anything that you can do? It says help, right? It says help.
you can stand there with them.
Right. Well, so there are many different things that we can do. Yes.
Somebody said it. Sorry. A donkey is
No, emo.
level animal, compared to a horse with somebody, it's important animal, where a donkey is the lowest. And even to the lowest animal, when you see them in sorrow, you should not ignore. Don't ignore what you see.
So there's a comment, don't ignore even a donkey who's a lower class kind of animal. Okay. Okay. Very good. Very good point. Yes, Michael.
So it seems that it's possible here that it's not the enemy who we're gonna help, although we're not gonna help the enemy, we're gonna forget he's our enemy. But we should help anybody because the donkey is suffering. In other words, we're trying to save an animal
Right.
that is suffering.
So-
And any creature that's suffering, we should try to help.
Right, so the point is that any creature, the Gemara gives specific, explains that this is, in many cases, the Torah is specific, it's not only a donkey, right? It's just representing all classes of animals. And the Gemara does discuss that we're helping both the animal and the human being as well. So both are being addressed here. Okay, let's go on to the next comment of Rashi, where we saw that this phrase of Azov, right? Is everything okay? Yeah.
What does it snap out? What do you mean? You mean change your mind?
Snap out of it? Yeah.
Tell us about what you have to do. Should you change your mind? Well, or should you rethink the whole?
Rethink, yeah.
What's different? This is different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a different, if you have different thoughts in mind, you got to choose what the best path is. That's part of what's being discussed here. Yeah, I agree. Okay, let's move on. Azov to Azov. So here Rashi says explicitly that it means to help. And he has biblical references for it, right? To assist and help from Devarim, and also in Nehemiah, Vayazvu Yerushalayim L'Choma, meaning that they strengthened it, right? They filled up the wall, right? When you're building a wall against the hurricane, you have to shore it up. You have to fill up the what do you call it?
Sandbags.
The sandbags. Thank you. And it strengthens the walls. So this is what Azov is to strengthen, right? So so he has to he was uncomfortable with the word, meaning to leave, right? Because it has to be something different. Because it doesn't make sense, right? Chadalta me'azovlo, right? So he says it doesn't make sense that you have to, are you azoving him? Are you leaving? You're not helping, are you helping? It's, so Rashi says it means you shall help him, you shall strengthen him. And that goes back to the previous idea that was mentioned, that you can do other things to help even if you can't lift up 100 pounds of his matzah, the weight that he's carrying, the burden that he's carrying. All right, so then he says we have this usage of ki. In ki tomar bilvavcha, rabim hagoim ha'elu. And he gives you another interpretation where ki is a rhetorical question. So I'm not going to go into the proof, but the Rashi always wants to provide a foundation for his interpretation, and he finds it in other biblical psukim, right? So he doesn't just say this is what it means, but he needs another proof to say, hey, we see it clearly in another context and we can apply it here as well. So he feels that the context is relevant to his interpretation. All right, so and then he quotes the rabbi, something that we did touch on earlier. So our rabbis expounded it in the halachic sense, ki tireh v'chadalta. Right, so it seems to imply that there are times where you can adalta, where you can hold back. And there are occasions where you may forbear, and there are occasions when you must help. So in halacha, there are times when, whether you can or not, right? So if it's somebody is an older person, an elderly, and is or a respectable person, and it's not respectable for them to roll up their sleeves and get on the floor to lift up the donkey and to lift up the packages, the masa, the burden, then they don't have to do it. There are other examples. I won't get into that as well. But you see that there's that tension of whether you can resist or you don't have to desist rather. And there are times where you can. Okay, so let's go into the next page, which is a commentary on Rashi. He says, Lo yadati lama Rashi mefarei kach. Why does Rashi have to, make this unusual? Usually in halachic context, he is going to refer to declarative. It's going to be when or if this happens, and we can, discuss whatever those nuances are. But it's very rarely done in a rhetorical fashion. So why does he have to feel forced to do so? Hare efshar lafarsha below koshi kalashon kasher. It can be very easily translated as kasher, meaning when. And so Rav Wolf Heidenheim, Germany in 1832, explains that according to Rashi, he says it doesn't make sense when you see a donkey collapsing under its burden and you refrain from helping. You will surely help. For once you held back, how can you help? Right? If you're holding back and then you're holding back, are you helping? Right? So for us, we like to say that's what he means is perhaps you will see this happening and you might want to stop yourself from happening. That you should not do, rather you shall help him. All right, so it's a very kind of logical way of understanding what Rashi is trying to say, and that's going into the thrust of this pasuk. You will see it happening. You might want to v'chadalta me Azov lo, right? You're sensing that it's your enemy. You don't want to help him. And then you desist from not helping him. And then Azov Tazov imo. Oh, now the Torah comes in to say, no, you have to help him. All right, so that's the force of this, and it kind of cuts through some of these problems that we see, right? So it's when you are aware, right, of what you said, when you're aware, so I'm leaning in not to help him. Oh, now I have to be aware, and now I have to make another choice. It's holding us to account that we have to help no matter what our personal feelings are. Okay, yeah.
What's the difference if he's an enemy or a friend? If you feel that you can't help him, you're gonna think about it first. And you won't know.
I didn't understand the question.
Okay, if it's a matter of, let's say somebody's on the road, he has to fix a flat tire, and you see it, and whether he's an enemy or a friend, you're going to think about the fact that can you do this for him?
Right.
Whether it doesn't matter if it's an enemy or a friend.
Right. So the Torah here is just trying to teach us the extreme case. So it's saying that a regular person, so maybe it's a middle person, middle ground, you don't know him from at all,
So,
right? You're going to certainly help your friend, and you also should help somebody who you don't even know, but even more so, you should help somebody that you may not like. Okay, that's the range of what's going on here. And the Torah uses one case in order to cover the whole gamut, right? So it's not when we're learning it, not in a literal sense. Oh, you only have to help your enemy. That's not what the Torah is telling us. It's saying that we have to help everyone, but especially somebody that you may not be inclined to help. Kalva Chomer. Yeah, explain that. People don't know what a Kalva Chomer is.
Well, if you want the Torah forces you literally to help your enemy, it certainly implies you want to help your friend.
So Kalva Chomer is a Talmudic way of understanding and deriving legal principles of when certain procedures apply. So a Kal v'chomer is if you give me the Kal, the lighter play, the one that I'm easier to understand, then I will certainly understand that the harder case to be the difficult case will certainly be able to understand the simple case, right? Yes, Sharon.
So.
I couldn't hear.
Certainly gonna help you more.
Exactly, right. What we said earlier that Chamor is and what we said about being a lower class animal, you certainly help the higher class animals too. So in that sense, both of your comments kind of come together. Okay, good. All right, so let's move on to Unclus. And this is H's point. So H, please read the Unclus for us. It's the first time I've asked for help here. So Baruch Hashem Shechiyanu. All right.
Arei sechazeh chamora disana revia supposed to aneh.
Okay, let's explain that. Right? You see, right? Techazena einenu, right? Chazon means to see in Aramaic and Hebrew. Chamora, chamor, this interchangeable in Semitic languages, right? So it's your enemy. Ravia, right? We said before the arba, right? The four, and the ayin and the tzadi often are interchangeable as well in Hebrew and in Aramaic, and also between the language, right? Tachas toane, right? The toane is a te'ina, means it's burden, right? In halacha, you call it a to'e. Din imaminus, someone who makes a claim, right? There's a burden, there's a claim. So it's the same idea. Okay, go ahead.
Misitna mispak le mispak.
Right, okay, let's go slow. What does that mean? Right? You tidmana, right? Limnoa. What is limnoa? Right, to prevent. Me lishbak le mishbak. Right? You might stop yourself from abandoning him. You might not want to help him. So it's a bit kind of, convoluted, but he's explaining it in a euphemistic way. It's kind of like a ... and you have to fill in the blanks as to what he's saying, right? But rather what? Finish it up. Okay, excellent, right. Tishbog madilibech. That's what you said. You have to leave what's in your heart. Because the leaving doesn't make sense to leave the person. It means to leave what's in your heart. So it's a bit of a stretch, but it actually captures what we're trying to say, right? But he's trying to use the language to get to that point, and not like Rashi, who's making a far-fetched interpretation of what Azov is to, because it strengthen doesn't necessarily apply. That's a hard word. Go to the easy word. So that's what the Onkelos is trying to do. And he says, abandon what is in your heart against him and unload with him. So this is going back to that issue of what is in your mind and what are your impulses? Are your impulse to help? Is your impulse not to help? Right? And so we have to, and according to Onkelos, we have the human propensity to act on negative feeling, right? So if I don't like somebody, I'm going to ignore him and I'm going to refrain from helping him. But the Onkelos is saying, leave that feeling from your heart, right? So, and surely to, but then he has to come up with So Azov to Azov imo, it's a bit forced to say that this is now you shall surely Azov to Azov abandon what's in your heart. So you have to fill in all of those details. So is it a pshat or is it a drash? It's still what the halacha is trying to teach us. Bottom line is that they're still agreeing that you have to help them and they're just trying to fit it into the words. Yes.
What about Sakanas Nefesh? The man who spoke before and asked about the possibility of some more biting you. What if it's at your own risk? I mean, we've heard, lately on TV and the news, someone on the subway is getting stabbed and you want to help them, but it's at your own peril.
So the question is, do you have to help somebody at your own peril? So usually halacha and there's a lot of achronim on this issue, but usually they're going to side on you don't have to put yourself into danger, right? So whether it's a donkey or an alligator or a frozen iguana, you don't have to hurt yourself, right? Okay. So we've done a pretty good job of thrashing out a lot of these issues. So let's go now to the Gemara in Bava Metzia. There's a lot of pages on this material and a lot of differences of opinion. We've just been kind of giving you the exegesis from the commentaries rather than all of the halachas. It would get us into more of differences of opinion, which are difficult to go in a regular Parsha shir as opposed to a Gemara shir. Nevertheless, I do want to add a couple of points that we previewed earlier, which is as follows. So the Gemara in Bava Metzia, Lamed Beis Amen Aleph. So now you are witnessing, right? And you've helped the animal, right? You've unloaded the animal that was collapsing. And later you help to load it. I'm not going to get into the question, are you required to load it? The Gemara basically says that you're required to unload it for free, but to load it for a fee. So it's the free versus fee issue. All right, I don't want to get into that, but it happened many times, right? Because if you loaded it again and it still was not good and you got the balance wrong, let's say, and it was collapsing. You still had to load it properly, right? And maybe you'd had to get some more material or get sorry about that. You needed to load it better, right? So 1 second, we're in the middle of this issue. 4, right? So it says 4 or 5 times. So you're obligated to continue to unload it, as you see, and it says because Azov to Azov imo, right? And that's Azov to Azov is a strengthening. Whenever you have a double language, there's a strengthening, right? In the fancy academics, they call it a severative, meaning it's very strong. So why does the Torah have to be strong about this idea? Because it's saying you might not want to help the 4th time or the 5th time, and so you still have to help. It's the same incident, even though it's schlepped on a few more times, but you can't give up, right? And that's a very interesting point because you might think, well, I tried, I can't. No, the Torah says you got to keep trying and get the right solution to the problem, which is Ein la davar sof. I don't have an answer to that question. It might happen a long time. But anyway, this is an important point that I wanted to make. Yes, question over here. And then
I think the bottom line here, I think homiletically, I don't know, you may say it's a horse, there's donkey, so I think the Torah is trying to tell you, no matter the situation you're in, you should not abandon it. We should try where you can't help people generally, so on and so forth. And the donkey just happened to be an example of that. But I think homiletically, like what you should do in your heart as opposed to physically what you see.
So you're saying homiletically in the sense of a lesson to learn,
Yes.
because it is a halacha. It's not just a nice sermon, but this is uh, this is the halacha that tells us
If Torah allows you to get paid for helping him load it, is there any possibility of getting paid for the unloading if it gets really, really, really hard? Tomorrow discuss.
not to my knowledge. I'll have to ask the Beis Din that question. No, it doesn't seem to, what I saw, it didn't seem to give you an out after the 100th time. Maybe you just say, look, I tried and I need to bring in somebody else to help. I don't know. Maybe that would be helping. Yes, David.
Yes, in your mind, you feel like you think that you're young enough to help. But in your years, physical years, you say, oh boy, I will be pulling on the floor with him together.
David,
Who's going to help me after that?
everyone heard you because there was a big roar of laughter. I think people kind of resonated with your thinking of our demographic here. We all think that we're 45 years old and very stark as the way we used to be. Yeah.
An example, I think I would put the emphasis on the words Azov about the enemy.
Azov.
And donkey belongs to the enemy, somebody you hate, somebody you against, something you don't agree with, something that you're not from your community, not from your wherever it is. And the example that we see from it is that we have many doctors, and happen to be that I'm experienced with the Arabs. So, and the Arabs are doctors, and they take care of the Israelis. And Israelis who hate the Arabs just as much do take care of them. And I think the example is when it comes to help, don't put your hate in between.
Okay, it's a nice point. It's a little bit beyond what we are discussing today, but it's a nice point. We always emphasize how the Jewish doctors in Israel help everybody, and I just saw today that there was a Syrian boy that was flown to Israel for medical assistance. Okay, let's move on to the last pieces over here on page 3. This is fascinating, right? Somebody said before, I think it was Esther, emo. What is your point of emo?
Means that he has to participate in helping you.
All right, so Esther's point is at first glance, emo means he has to participate. The owner has to participate. Right, we'll see that that's recorded here. Yeah, but what's the second point? Oh, all right. Well, we're all right. So let's just keep this in mind because you're machave to the Gemara. Maybe you knew the halach already, but halach b'yashav lo, right? So the owner went. He said, "Hey, Heshi comes. I'm here to help you. I am very strong. I'm very capable, and I want to help you." The owner goes, "Oh, great, Baruch Hashem," and he takes his recliner out of the back seat and sits down and starts reading a newspaper and eating lunch. I have somebody to help. Is that kosher or not? I mean, the lunch. I mean, is that kosher?
At that point,
No.
at that point, he has to help.
Emo. Esther's initial reaction is what the Gemara says. The Torah says, hey, we're not here. We're not a social service agency. We don't just do help for people. By the way, social services, my daughters are social workers, and they tell me that we empower people. We don't do things for people. And that's what halacha also. Halacha is to empower. We don't just say, oh, you just sit back and we do it for you. We do it with you. Right, it's a beautiful idea that goes back to our ancient sources right in the Torah. What a beautiful idea. One second. Right? So he says, hey, wait a second. I've got a guy here. I've got a live one here. He's a Jew. He has to help me. Oh, great. I'm sending this one out. No, he doesn't have to help you if you're not going to participate. That's what the Gemara says based on this word of Imo.
What is the subject in this pasuk? The sonnet or the donkey?
In which lo
First one. The first one.
Azov, for which subject of which verb or object of which verb?
Well, you help the sonnet or the donkey.
Gemara says that you have to help both.
Question is, your first obligation is to for tzar and tzar balei chayim, or for your fellow.
They're both. The Gemara deals with this, and they say you have to. I don't remember the exact issue, but they said both.
The other guy it's irrelevant.
Right. I mean, that's all part of the issue of of your enemy. The Torah is saying that your animus towards the individual might affect your fulfillment of the other principle of helping the animal too.
The question is, if the guy decides to sit down and read the paper, does that alleviate your obligation to the animal?
Yes. Yes.
It does.
Yeah, that's just to emphasize that.
That's insane.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the person himself then is the one who's responsible for it. When you are released from your obligation,
If he does.
once he doesn't, and then the onus is on him, not on you. Right. So that's an important thing to make. We feel we're so responsible and guilty, right? Oh, like the poor animal. It would be lifni meshuras hadin for you to do that, right? But you don't have to. You're not obligated. It would be extra supererogatory, whatever that fancy word is, above the law. Yeah, Rachmiel.
See, the word chamor is only a symbol for anything. Chamor was at that time transportation. Head. Can be a camel, can be a horse, can be anything.
Yes.
It's not necessarily a chamor. Number one. Number two.
Okay, the first point is chamor is a symbol. I think we've covered that, really, yes.
Number two can be a car today.
Correct. It can be a car.
And there's no tzar
It's not tzar balei chayim. It's just helping somebody else.
I will
Yeah.
come to another conclusion.
Right.
And this is, you have to live.
Right.
Trouble.
Right. Okay.
No, somebody asked the question if you're afraid that the animal might harm you. The camel generally in the Torah, when it uses camel, it's a domesticated animal that will not harm you. The other version of it is an oson. An oson is a wild donkey that will
Okay.
harm you. So the Torah particularly uses here the word camel to tell you that it is a domesticated animal and you don't have to be afraid that the animal's gonna harm you.
All right. So the point is the difference between a chamor, which is domesticated, and an aton or an ason as a wild donkey. So it's using the more domesticated one. Okay. Let me just do the netziv. The netziv also emphasizes on this point, and we're going to finish very soon. Right, so he says, "Mashmao balev mamish," somebody who really hates you in his heart. He emphasizes this, and it has to be unloaded together with the owner. So he emphasizes this, and then he explains that usually the word azov means to leave or abandon. However, in this legal context, he says it means the opposite. And so he has another twist on this. It does mean to leave, but I will not leave you to struggle alone. All right. So you're using the language in a funny way, but really trying to develop the nuances of the pasuk. So let's just finish up. You're required to stop whatever you're doing and stay to help rather than continuing on your way. So basically, whatever we've seen, they all come basically to the same idea. However you get it from the words itself, it means to help people when they are in need. Karen, yeah. See it through to the end. That would be another application of this strengthening, right? It's not just help them one time, 3 or 4, 4 or 5 times, and that's what the doubling of the word. See it through to the end. Make sure that they're okay. Stay with them if they're emotionally in trouble afterwards. You really do the whole thing. All right, I gave you Rabbi Sachs, who answers some of these questions of Tzar Balei Chaim, but I'm going to leave that for you to read on your own. It's pretty clear. And Shkoach, thank you all for coming, and see you, please God, next week.
I have English, not